Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So I go out to my car today, and it's nice and cool, and I'm so excited that autumn is upon us. I'm a big fan of the Peter Schiff show, as you can probably guess from my opening theme. Peter Shit, I sometimes call him Peter Shit because the Peter Shit show, right, was talking about the Jewish New Year of 5784. His joke is that they're in the 80s on the Jewish calendar, but we are in the 70s with inflation. And, this time of year I really like. The last couple of Septembers were transition times for me. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona in 2021, but then we had some in person work and I went back to Seattle where I was working at the time. But I really love Phoenix so much and I found my way back here. I love the weather here. Sometimes the atmosphere of Phoenix can be really fast paced, though. I've been talking about. I'm going to get more into that later. But my main resolution going into 2023, you got to remember at the end of 2022, I was in a very toxic workplace dynamic. And, now looking back at it, I really loved all of our clients. I was working at a tutoring center. I really love all of our clients. In fact, every once in a while, I'll still see them in the shopping mall or while eating out or somewhere, and I can tell they miss me as well. The parents will say hello to me. I'll say hello to them, and I really miss that. But what I don't miss is the micromanagement of the workplace. My boss was in his 70s, and he had this family mentality kind of mindset, and he didn't really appreciate that. Not everybody lives life like that, right? He's probably very religious as well, and it created a lot of drama because of differences in lifestyle and but I there's somebody in here. So are you gonna be real quick? I'm talking something that's a little bit sensitive that you might not want to hear. So
Okay, what would you talk to me in?
oh no, never mind then. I'll find
I'm
some.
down a little.
Okay.
A little bit.
Apologies. Don't want to be mouthing off about my former employer here. Anyway, so he had differences in philosophy, and he probably in his mind he probably thinks that you got all this free time, you don't have somebody to take care of. Yeah, but in return, there are other things that are difficult for me, right? So, for example, one time I had a colleague who needed me to stay later. She found out her schedule and was running a little bit late, and I would so much love to help her with that. But in return, I have difficulty with networking with other people. In return, can you like invite me to maybe your wedding or something so I can network with other people? Right? That we didn't have that kind of dynamic, right? It was only push in one direction, right? I would have so much loved. I talked about how at a different college that I used to teach at Washington Technology University. Uh, that was thoughtful. I'm glad. At Washington Technology University, I had a colleague who had maternity issues, and I ended up giving her 6 vacation days, which had taken me a long time to accumulate because I was only working there part time, and that was like a whole year's accumulated vacation time. And that's fine. It was COVID. I wasn't going to be flying to Poland anyway. There's nothing wrong with helping my coworker with maternity issues. In return, if she could have did something for me, right now, for example, I'm really burnt out from not having time for myself. What would have been nice is maybe to have somebody cook for me or something like that. Maybe she's not going to do that, but at least she could help me network with the right people, right? Maybe invite me to her kids' graduation or whatever, right? Just so I can network, I can get myself out there. I mingle more with people, right? I would have been okay with it had it gone in both directions. Unfortunately, the help never goes in a two-way street, right? That's the big problem. So my resolution going into 2023 was to clean all that up. And I decided that I can never rely on just one job. I wanted to have multiple jobs and gigs going on at the same time. At the end of 2022, I discovered making art with metals, and I really ramped that up going into 2023 because I wanted to have a say in things, right? I never wanted to be living paycheck to paycheck and having to wipe everybody's asses just because I need that next paycheck, right? That's a terrifying feeling, not just a financially terrifying feeling, but a very socially terrifying feeling as well, right? That you have to be a slave almost, right? So I freed myself from that. Unfortunately, I completely underestimated how much energy I would have to devote to that. So right now I teach at two different colleges. I got numerous tutoring gigs and then the art projects. And I was just at an art show. And everything becomes exponentially trickier when you're single, right? And not necessarily because you're single, but because our whole society revolves around married life, right? Now, another thing I'm really disappointed about in 2023 was I wanted to have a wedding ceremony for myself as well, even if I don't have a partner. But unfortunately, nobody has taken me seriously about that. I've uh, at my previous job, forget about it, right? Actually, I made a lot of noise about that toward the end of my time there because I was upset and even at GCU where I now teach, there's a pause where when I talk about planning my own wedding, and then when people finally hear about what kind of wedding that is, they just completely give up on that idea, right? I so badly want to call Dave Ramsey one of these days, the financial advisor, and are you married? Yes, to myself, and see what he says, right? Because sometimes Dave Ramsey gets a call from a gay or lesbian person, and oh, my husband and I, and then there's almost that hesitation on Dave Ramsey's part, and he does it very visually, actually, the hesitation on that. And that really upsets me. So I so badly want to try it with a marriage with myself to see how he would react to it. Unfortunately, I had hoped to have the wedding this year, and unfortunately, that didn't go. I had a very special day in mind to have the wedding this year. It didn't go because nobody took me seriously. Nobody was going to attend it, and you know what? I suspect a double-digit percentage of the population is closeted solosexual. I really do. If you really pay attention to our culture and you know what to look for, it's not hard to see somebody who is solosexual, right? Well, at my last toxic job, everybody was crazy about. To give you an idea of the toxicity, Taylor Swift was in Phoenix in I think February or March, and that whole week, a number of students were away to go see Taylor Swift, and it was a very sparse week. And I ended up having a week that only had like 6 hours of work, and that was very upsetting for me because 6 hours of work, I won't be able to leave the Phoenix area, right? But at the same time, I'm only making 6 hours of work, right? And people thought that I was the one to take it because, oh, you're single, you don't have somebody to take care of. And yeah, I am. And maybe I could do those 6 hours, but what about other challenges that are more difficult for me as a single guy? Like maybe you guys should come to my wedding, right? And then I thought about it, and then I realized that Taylor Swift might actually be solosexual herself. Back in May when she was singing and it was pouring and she was singing, it kind of felt like a wedding, right? It really did in my mind. So, like I said, if you know what to look for, it's everywhere. And unfortunately, most people don't want to acknowledge it for some bizarre reason. All right. So there was one other thing that I really didn't think of going into the year. I completely underestimated how much I hate to say it this way, but how much older I am now compared to in my early 20s. When I was doing the Bismuth art projects, I underestimated I overestimated my physical strength and being able to move all that stuff. into the convention center every art show. And it's one thing to not be able to lug tons and tons of metal anymore. It's another to be really disappointed that how much has changed over the last 13 years. I used to collect coins, and I used to lug tons of coins without a problem. I can't seem to do that anymore, and that's just been really upsetting to me. Been weighing heavily on me, at least, right? Almost as heavily as the coins themselves, right? All right, so going into the new year, I definitely want to have the wedding in 2024 at the latest. I have another very special date in mind for that. Well, I'll get to it as we get closer. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.